Hello to everybody, and thank you for joining me on this new video. Today we're going to have a look at the Death Guard detachment breakdowns at the WTC event. List lock was revealed on Monday, and as to no one's surprise, there is a lot of Death Guard at this event, commonly sort of across the competitive circuit at the moment, known as one of the best armies in the game. A lot of people think it probably does need some points adjustments and maybe some rules tweaks. It is very strong at the moment, as we've seen since the Codex release. It's been winning a lot of events, and the win percentage of each of the three detachments that we're going to take a quick sort of glance at here have been performing very well and often above the 50% or even the 55% Goldilocks range. So of the 42 teams that could take the Death Guard to the WTC, it's to no one's real surprise that 40 of them, probably more surprised that it's not the full 42. So yeah, let's take a look at the actual breakdown. We have 40 of the 42, as I mentioned, and Mortarion's Hammer is the most popular here. This is no real surprise. Mortarion's Hammer allows you to skew into the sort of cheap hull spam, and a lot of people have been having success with this at the moment. It's fairly easy to navigate in terms of the player skill required because of the detachment rule, which allows you to pick two units of the opposing player's army. You can pick one that you want to sort of nuke down with all of your indirect or potential shots from your heavy blight launcher drones, and you can pick another one that you want to sort of target as being a chance to 6-inch deep strike with your Death Shroud, and it is a very powerful detachment rule, especially combined with those sort of units which are commonly seen in the Mortarion's Hammer detachment, and often very much 3 of in the list that have been winning events recently. So it's not really a surprise that 20 of the teams have taken Mortarion's Hammer detachment. We see an even greater skew towards Mortarion's Hammer if you just look at the top seeded teams. I think out of however many teams it is in the top seed, I think all but 3 are Mortarion's Hammer, and 2 are Virulent Victorium, and 1 is the Champions of Contagion. So you can clearly see that that is the popular choice for what would be regarded the best teams going to WTC. And yeah, it's just a strong sort of detachment that can really punish any sort of list. It's good into a lot of things. There aren't any particular weaknesses of it. If it is a vehicle skew, so if something is good at killing vehicles, but if it's something that's infantry based, the Plague Burst Crawlers put sort of a ticking clock on that sort of list against them, because they can't just leave them out in the open, so they have to either be in transports or drop down, because the Plague Burst Crawlers can pick things up with the -1 save. Obviously, there's 1 AP inbuilt, but that can they'll get that back from cover. But being a -1 and 2 damage, it can pick up a lot of things from range. So the next most popular is the Virulent Victorian. That is 15 players taking that. Again, it's a very popular detachment at the moment. This was the detachment that sort of sprouted from the index. So you still have the sticky objectives, and it's still where a lot of Death Guard players sort of navigated to when the Codex dropped. And it's just full of really useful stratagems and enhancements. The Demon Prince of Nurgle on foot, that with the Revolting Regeneration enhancement basically makes him a mini Mortarion, so a 2-up, 4-up with a 5-up Feel No Pain. Is a real difficult unit to take down, and the fact that it provides the utility of the cover and the CP reduction, as well as being able to give him the lone op ability to make him probably the strongest lone op in the game, as long as he's within 3 inches of infantry. And we do have some tough infantry that that is difficult to shift to be able to make him even more sort of durable. He's a staple in most of those lists. And then you have the ability to really juice up the heavy blight launcher drones in this detachment because of the overwhelming generosity stratagem. This allows you to re-roll the number of hits for every single one of those. Anything that's a random number of hits in your army against them. So it does work with the Death Shroud Flamers as well. So yeah, it's a very strong detachment. It is sort of based around the fact of eliminating the variants. So it's a really powerful detachment. A lot of people have Mortarion running in this detachment as well because of the ability to put -1 damage on him, and also the regen in health. He can become a real nightmare for people if you can't quite finish him off, and he is able to regen up to 6 wounds or whatever it is and do the mortals. He's a real menace to a lot of army lists, so I'm not surprised to see this list being so popular as well. I think Mortarion's Hammer is a bit more of a skew in terms of teams, so it's probably the reason why it's more popular. But yeah, Virulent Vectorium, if you have a Death Guard player that knows how to play it, it can play well into a lot of different army types and just push in the right sort of way to eke out the points. And finally, we do have the 5 remaining Death Guard on the Champions of Contagion, which is what this sort of channel is focused upon and why I'm playing sort of competitively. And the reviews that I've currently been doing on the bat reps for the Leeds UKTC event I attended, and obviously that's the main sort of detachment that we're going to run through in this video. So I'll switch to the first list we have here. We have Paul Bidge from Denmark, and he is 2,000 points on the nose. And we have the Biological Putrefier here with the final ingredient. That is the if his unit kills an opposing character in melee, they get to instantly choose another one of the 3 plagues to be active for the rest of the game. So getting this off early is really powerful because then you can have both -1 save, -1 to hit up, or -1 hit, -1 OC move leadership. It's just a really powerful tool to sort of snowball the game quite quickly. If you can get the Biological Putrefier into a character, his unit into their character, it's a really good way of sort of putting the game into your favor. He's also elected here to take the Visions of Virulence on his Playcaster. This is the enhancement which allows him to whichever the Playcaster's ability for the Enfeeblement, which is the -2 to move, whichever unit that shoots, it automatically makes them afflicted. So that Plague Marine unit will be able to afflict 2 things with its guns. Obviously, the specific unit the Playcaster shoots, and then whichever one any of the other Plague Marines or the Biological Putrefier shoots, they will both end up being inflicted, which is useful. It's a 15-point enhancement, and if you got the points, it's probably the best one of the rest to take because the other 2 are pretty expensive. So those 2 characters will obviously be going with a 10-man. We can see here the 10-man is 4 heavy plague weapons, 1 blight launcher, 2 spewers, the 2 plasma guns, as well as the champion having a plasma gun, and the power fist. So yeah, we got 15 power fist sort of profile attacks as the melee threat, as well as the sort of the 6 rapid firing plasmas if they're within range, and the reroll hits and wounds from this unit is going to go pretty far in the shooting phase, as well as in the melee if you need to. Reminder that the Biological Putrefier gives the unit lethals, so the plasma guns do become lethal, as well as crit 5s, so lethal on 5s, and as long as the target of the unit is already afflicted, the Playcaster's Visions of Virulence doesn't sort of trigger if you shoot that first, the Plague Marines get to proc the afflicted status. That doesn't work. It's obviously the start of the activation. So the plasma guns, if the target you are shooting is afflicted, you get sustained crit 5s as well. So it is a really powerful unit. It's a lot of points, especially with the enhancements in there. So you've got 65 points, 75, so 140, and then the 190, and then almost certainly you've got a Rhino at the end. So you're spending a lot of points on this unit, which needs to sort of activate in the shooting and the melee phase against something strong to really justify its points. One thing I do like about the 10-man unit with the Biop and the Plaguecaster is it's a really powerful Overwatch threat as well. That people aren't going to want to walk into the 2 Flamers and the Plaguecaster's torrent weapon as well as obviously any 6s that you get in Overwatch with the plasma guns or the blight launchers would be most likely be lethal sustained as well. So yeah, it's a really powerful unit. It's just a lot of points. I am running something very similar. Instead of the plasma guns, I've been running melters. I just find it's a bit more useful from the knights meta at the moment. But obviously, if this list isn't planning to go into knights, that's fine. It's not something they need to take into. And I generally go with 2 blight launchers instead of 4 heavy plague weapons. Just have 3. But it's just a personal choice. It's going to do a very similar sort of role. So yeah, it's very powerful. We've got 2 Lord of Contagions. They're obviously going to go with the Death Shroud below. These are they don't really need talking about. The fact in Champions of Contagion you can give them crit 5s as well. It's so powerful. Lethal sustained lance, crit 5s. If you really need to, you put the rerolls on there as well. If you take a look at the Strike or Sweep series, you can see that the Lord of Contagion that's charged because so the benefit from Lance with the crit 5s, it does so much work. It can't one shot a big knight on its own. I mean, it can if you get lucky and hot dice. But yeah, it does a really good chunk, and because of the sweep profile, it's really good into hordes as well or anything with -1 damage. It's just such a powerful unit. No surprise that he's running 2. And then yeah, Taliman. Taliman is marked as the warlord here, so it does make me think he's potentially going into knights because Taliman is going to just sit at the back of the board, try and get your CP on your command phase every one of your turns, and just screen out that 9-inch and probably try and stand on your home objective. So obviously try and keep him as safe as possible. The other 4 characters, these are going to want to go out and get and earn their points. So in the IK matchup, if he does end up in there, Taliman's the best one, so that it's not just he can be careful about his warlord. We do have 3 units of Death Shroud and only 2 leaders, which is a bit strange in this detachment. He could potentially be looking to take advantage of the vector stratagem, which allows a character to join into a unit that isn't currently led, or there is space to be led. There is the caveat on that stratagem that you can't do it in the reinforcement step of your phase, so you would have to potentially rapid ingress the second unit next to it and then do the movement to get within range of them. But yeah, it's the Death Shroud is still strong on their own, but in a detachment that's focused around attached units, it's maybe a little strange to have that unit. But obviously, if he's trying this out, maybe it's something that, say with the mobile vectors, it could be a powerful play to know that the Death Shroud are going down, rapid ingress the second unit. If the Lord of Contagion survive, they have to kill it twice, and if they don't, it's another full unit back up and in their face. 2 units of Poxwalkers. These are great for spreading contagion and that sort of early infiltration. Really like the Poxwalkers in the Contagion, Champions of Contagion detachment, as well as the 1 unit Spawn. This is our fastest moving through wall unit. So moving 8, potentially advancing or charging or doing whatever they need to do. They're really quite durable at T7, and they have the Mortals ability is confusing, but it is a good way to get the if you can tag something with these guys, it's a really good way to get contagion in a really annoying spot for them to try and remove. Next up in the list, we have a Predator Annihilator. This isn't a very common pick. I imagine this is for the obviously the Knight meta, so maybe he is taking into Knights with this list. But yeah, we've got the big las cannon on top, the strength 14 one, and then the two side sponsor las cannons. So yeah, it will do damage if it goes through, but the hitting on threes, rolling, wounding on threes for most of the targets, you're probably not going to get too many of these through. Bring this on a board edge and get shots into something big. That's probably the main tactic with here. I'm not a big fan of the Predators personally, but it's an interesting tech piece, especially with the Knights. Keeps them honest. They don't want to get hit by the last cannons and potentially get blown up. We have the 3 voted boat drones with heavy blight launchers. So these obviously are sort of the meta menace at the moment. I think they're obviously still very powerful, but without the support of the Lord of Virulence, as we don't have a Lord of Virulence character, so we're not pointing at something at the start of the shooting phase and getting the reroll hits. These are very susceptible to getting tagged by an enemy unit. You have to play quite defensive with them to get the most use out of them. Obviously got 36-inch range, so that's good enough. But if these do get tagged, then you're hitting on 4s, and you can't shoot your way out of it because it is a blast gun. So if they can tag you with something and then move the rest of their army sort of out of line of sight of this of any of these drones, that's just a dead activation, and you don't want that sort of situation arising. So for me, without the Lord of Virulence, I probably wouldn't be running 3. Just specifically in the Champions of Contagion detachment, as we mentioned in the Virulent Victorium, it's super strong. It's their best detachment because they get the reroll number of hits and then reroll hits. But in Champions of Contagion, they're not as powerful. They're still a very strong data sheet, and they're still probably too cheap at 100 points. But they're definitely it's definitely not their strongest detachment. We do have a Spitter drone, which I really like. The Spitter drone has the old rule of fall back, shoot, and charge. So this is a really good skirmish unit, especially for 90 points. It's got the same defensive profile, so a 3 up, 5 up, T9, 10 wounds. So it's just really good at that initial engagement, and then if they bounce off of it, you can fall back the 10 inches, spread some contagions pretty deep, and then charge potentially something in the back line or whatever it is. It's a really powerful unit, and it's really strong. Again, sort of the whole cheap hulls at the moment, it seems to be the bane of everyone at the moment. Going up against Death Guard because the Blight Haulers are the same stat line. They're 3 up, 5 up as well. So you need to be able to push through a lot of damage and 10 wounds. You can just end up spiking a few 5 up invulns on the big guns, and you don't end up killing them, and then they're a massive pain. And then, yeah, rounding out the list, we do have the Blight Haulers. These are really good at 90 points. They now have +1 to hit and +1 to wound against monsters and vehicles. So, yeah, they're lethal multi-melters. Can push through a lot of damage. They move 10 still, and then obviously range 18 on the multi-melters. So they keep flank honest because no one wants to get hit by the melters. And again, it's just a good skirmishing piece for 90 points. You don't mind if this becomes an action unit in certain matches. It's got a big base to be able to screen things out. And yeah, it's a solid unit, especially in a night meta. And then, as we mentioned before, with the Rhino for the 10 Plague Marines. So yeah, Paul's got it's a strong list here. As we said, we've got 3 sort of powerhouse units with the Lord of Contagions and the Plague Marine Brick. They come down, and then there's a lot of sort of midfield play, backfield play with the photo drones and the Annihilator. But yeah, interesting list for Paul. Hope he does well. Okay, so next up, we have the player from Chechnya. Voytech, I would imagine is pronounced the name, but I'm probably not probably butchering that. Here we have the Death Guard and the R taking Chaos Knights, which seems to be quite a popular thing at the moment. A big knight of a Despoiler or a couple of Carnivores. Here is what we're looking at. So we do have, again, we've got two Lord of Contagions, spoke about them, they're really powerful. We have the Playcaster, and we don't have a Biologist Putrefier in this list, which is interesting. So two Taliman, again, one is the Warlord, just in case they are paired against Knights, they can hide that in the corner, and hopefully that never comes into play. But what sort of looks interesting here is we have the 5-man Plague Marines, and we have the Playcaster, which is almost certainly going to go with them. It can flex into a Poxwalker's unit, but it's not really worth it there. And the Lord of Poxes. So what the Lord of Poxes does is it gives you a really powerful unit or character to use Epic Challenge with if you need to position something out. So the Lord of Poxes in a unit with the Plague Marines and the Plague Caster. That Lord of Poxes is lethal. He would get sustained in melee, and obviously you can use the crit 5 stratagem. So you've sort of got the same situation you do with the Biologist Putrefier. So that just could just be a heavy hitting 5-man unit. You do have the 2 heavy plague weapons and a bubotic and a 1 plasma gun with a champ, and obviously he's got Power Fist and a blight launcher here. So you do have a little bit of shooting there, and obviously the Playcaster's got a really good shooting ability himself. So that's an interesting little 5-man. The Lord of Poxes does give the unit the 18-inch loan up, and he has the +3 inch range on his Contagion, so you can use him as sort of like a little brawling unit if you want to push, and hopefully the 18 inches. I think the best way to play the Lord of Poxes, as I went through in a video on the channel, is to play him on the flanks. It can be really good because you can bring him on, specifically with sort of a rapid ingress play. Make sure that the 18 inches leaves that unit safe, and then you have a 4-inch charge into something valuable on their end. So that could be what he's going for here. It's an interesting little tech piece, so yeah, interested to see how that turns out. I did run the Lord of Poxes with a 5-man at Leeds, as I mentioned, and I found it to be very useful. No Cornucophagus on this guy. It is a very expensive enhancement in the Champions of Contagion detachment to have the additional plague always on him. But on his own, 75 points with the sort of melee beat stick profiles, especially with sustained, and can give them crit 5s for 1 CP. If your Death Shroud aren't going to require it, it's definitely going to punch something hard. 2 Death Shroud units, they'll probably go with the Lord of Contagions. 3 units of Poxwalkers and 2 units of Spawn. I run exactly the same thing in my list. This is for all of your scoring and your early pressure. Poxwalkers do a great job at infiltrating and say, hey, if you don't kill these, I'm going to get you afflicted and drop on you with my Death Shroud. And the Spawn are a backup for that. They're a lot more tough with T7, 4 wounds, 5 up, feel no pain. So it's pretty tough for the opponent to remove all of this. And if you get at least one of these in a position where they don't want, then it means the Death Shroud will drop where you want, which is fantastic. We do have the 3 heavy blight launchers, which again doesn't have the best support, but the fact that there is a Lord of Virulence here, I like it a lot more. This allows him to, which because there's only 2 Death Shroud units, I imagine the Lord of Virulence is probably going to be running solo, and it just means that he can drop that to guy down, potentially score an action, but still point using his ability at something and give these blow drones full reroll to hits, which is going to be very valuable, especially in certain matchups. So I like the fact that he's included the Lord of Virulence here with the 3. It gives them an extra bit of support. And also, it's not just the blast weapons that get the benefit. It's anything gets reroll 1s, which the Mephitic Pilot Haulers, if they're shooting the thing that they want to be shooting, are going to be hitting on 2s anyway. So you're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s against vehicles or monsters, and they're probably going to be wounding on 3s or 4s, depending if it's like a super big knight or something like that. So really do like the Lord of Virulence in the Champions of Contagion detachment. It allows you to bring these support pieces and not just the sort of heavy hitting units, which he does have here. And then we've brought along 2 carnivores. So carnivores are still very good. They're still very fast. They still got good OC. I'm not personally a big fan of them. Because I think they require the contagion to be active against the target to really push through that damage. Like if you're going against a big knight that doesn't have an invuln, it's it's AP3. You want the contagion on there to make it so that they either don't have a save or are saving on sixes or whatever it is if they have some form of armor of contempt or anything like that. So yeah, they're very fast, very quick moving, do a lot of damage. Hit on threes now instead of twos, and obviously the damage is D6 plus, so it can be um, a bit random with their output, but they tend to kill whatever they connect with. So having two on there really shows it up, and it's a nasty rapid inguess threat to get in the backline. So yeah, and different list to the last one, but still pretty good. I think this will do quite well into the things it wants to go into, and I'm very interested to see how the Lord of Poxes and Playcaster 5-man unit ends up playing out. Okay, next up we've got Team Latvia, and we've got Alexander Blumenthal. So straight in here, we've got a look at the characters. We've got the double Taliman again, and again the Taliman is the Warlord, so just an easy thing to hide from all the knights. We have the Plaguecaster, and we do have the buyout this time. No enhancements here though, so no final ingredient on the PM brick. Just hard hitting one. We do have a lot of virulence here, so I expect we'll have some bloat drones, and we have 3 Lord of Contagion. So we've really got 4 sort of powerhouse bricks to really hit something. So if they've got the support pieces to allow these Lord of Contagion Death Shroud units to drop and connect with the Plague Marines, it's gonna be one hell of a go turn. So yeah, we do have the 10 Plague Marines here, 2 plasma guns, 4 heavies, 2 blight launchers, 1 spewer. So slightly different to last time. I say I do prefer 2 of the guns each, and then 3 of the heavy plagues, because the lethal sustain quick 5s tends to do enough there. But again, it's just sort of pick and choose with that 10-man. It can end up being expensive, but if you can do the job it needs to do, it's more than worth the points. We do have the 3 units of Death Shroud. Again, these, I imagine, most of the time, all the Lord of Contagions are going to go in there. So that's good. We've only got 2 units of Poxwalkers. It doesn't look like any spawn as well, so it's going to be quite difficult for him to spread the plague where he wants. Maybe he's going to go for a slightly slower game and go for turn on turn 3. But these Poxwalkers, you're probably going to have to leave one at home to depending on the mission to screen out and do whatever you need to there. The 2 Taliman can do part of that job, but it's going to be tricky with only a 1 model base. So one of these I would imagine stays at home, and the other one potentially blocks an infiltrator's spot. So it's going to be tricky to get that contagion out there turn 2, because Poxwalkers are slow. You can be reliant on an advance or something like that. But he does have something here which the other guys don't, which is he has the 3 heavy blight launchers. So again, the Lord of Virulence shores them up and allows them to hit something pretty hard. But we have got these sort of skirmishing regular bloat drones, which do have the fallback shoot and charge. These guys all have the flesh mower, so not the spitters. So these guys aren't doing anything in shooting, but what they're going to do is they're going to push deep into the lines and try and get that affliction started. Probably advance turn 1, and then next turn, if they get charged, they can flesh mower back, and then they fall back, shoot and charge, get that affliction spread. I think this is this combination of action pieces and pushing out to get everything dropping. Say if he can get the affliction where he needs to, turn 2 or turn 3, and he can get these things activating into the big things, he's going to have a great time. And then the Rhino to help with the Plague Marines. Say the reroll wounds for the support is really good. It means that you don't necessarily have to use the 2 CP activation from the detachment. You can just sort of rely on the wounds going through. There is only 1 spewer, so that's not great for the reroll wounds, but it does help, especially with the plasma guns, if you do get some crits on the sustains and everything like that. So yeah, another slightly different champions list. This is relying a bit more on the skirmishing drones, which is going to be interesting to see. No knights in this one, but yeah, it's a solid list. To say it's kind of all power, and you got to rely on the opponent not killing these skirmishing drones off first. And if you can do that, he's going to just run over people. Okay, so next up we have Cameron Wilkinson, and he's playing for New Zealand. He is bringing the final ingredient on the Ballast Putrefier here, so we can see he's probably going to have that big 10-man brick. So Ballast Putrefier and the Plaguecaster for the combo with the 10 Plague Marines. This is the same as last time, so there's 1 Plague Spewer, 4 Heavy Plague Weapons. We have elected for the Melters here, and I think this is a good choice against the Knight matchup. Say lethal sustained 5s with Melters. If you get into Melter range against a big Knight, that could potentially do a lot of damage, like up to like 20 damage just from itself if you get all 4 of them through. Obviously, that's high rolling, but you can use the reroll hits and wounds, and it becomes a bit more likely. So yeah, I do like the Melter guns at the moment over the plasma guns, but I can still see the argument for both. We have the 2 Lord of Contagions here and the Lord of Virulence. This time the Lord of Virulence is the Warlord. We can see we don't have a Taliban here. So the Lord of Virulence potentially going on his own. We'll check that in a second. But as I mentioned before, he can just stay in Deep Strike if he wants to until turn 3 and keep safe against that Knight matchup. Or if he is going to be sort of a semi-safe position, drop down, point at something, and yeah, it's a good little combo on the go. And finally, with characters, we do have the Demon Prince and Nurgle in here. For me, in the Champions of Contagion detachment, he doesn't do enough. I think in this detachment, it's easy to go, oh, I want to press the reroll wounds, or I want to do the crit 5s as many times as I can. But having played sort of 20 games since Codex release or whatever it is now, I ran this Demon Prince in probably 5 or 6 of them, and I just never found he did anything of use. His melee is a bit lackluster. It can pop off on certain instances, like with the damage 3 into certain things, but he would just never really justifying his points cost, and the strats were never that poignant to be required. So yeah, for me, not an include in the Champions of Contagion at the moment, but I can see why Cameron's taken this, and if it's working for him, fair play to him. So we do have the Rhino support for the Plague Marines, which is no surprise here, and we do have 2 units of Spawn. Again, love Spawn, really great at doing what they need to do and spreading Contagion. We do have 3 units of Death Shower, so that Lord of Virulence can jump in there if he wants to, which he probably does, but and gives the unit reroll wounds on Flamers, which can be good at picking up infantry. We've got the 3 heavy blight launcher drones. Obviously, that support from the ability from the Love there. And then we have 1 flesh mower drone. This, with the spawn, is going to be really annoying to sort of stop. This is the flesh mower drones are really good at hassling sort of the opponent's natural expansion because they don't tend to put something too powerful there. So if this connects there, it's probably going to pick up whatever's on there, and it forces them to reallocate assets towards that to kill this. So yeah, do like the flesh mower drone for the purposes of spreading contagion. And then we've got the 2 units of Poxwalkers. So nothing massively different there, but it's still a very powerful list. So the main difference we have here is the Demon Prince of Nurgle. It will allow, obviously, if it survives, 5 extra CP over the battle round. So that can be the difference. If you can press reroll hits and wounds with the Plague Marine unit against a big knight, and then elsewhere nearby, the Lord of Contagion drops down, and you get the reroll hits and wounds on them there as well, you're probably going to take down 2 big knights just from these units. And then you've also got the sort of additional shooting and the additional melee of the other Death Shroud units. So yeah, I do like this list. I do question the Demon Prince, but if that's the play style and he's getting use out of it, then fair play. And finally, we've got Team Netherlands, which I think are a Pod 1 team, and we've got Daan van Herk. So here we don't have any enhancements, and we are 2,000 points on the nose. So we've got 3 Lords of Contagion and a Taliban. Again, Taliban Warlord, just for a bit of night protection. We don't have any Plague Marines in this by the looks of it, so we have 1 unit Spawn. This is going to be our Contagion spreader. We have 2 Spitter drones and 1 flesh mower drone. So these are your skirmish drones, the ones that run in, fall back, shoot, and charge, cause havoc for the opponent. and then we have 3 heavy blight launcher drones. So we're sort of going max drones, and then coming down here we've also got 3 solo blight haulers. So we have 9 hulls here for all reasonably cheap. As I mentioned before, 3 up, 5 up, T9, 10 wounds. It's just going to cause a lot of. It's sort of a stat check with how many hulls there are. You can peek and show different ones, hide them once they've got sort of weakened, and then we're backing this up with 2 units of Poxwalkers. So again, it's going to be a similar sort of thing. The Poxwalkers are going to try and get you your spreading your contagion along with your skirmishing drones and your 1 unit spawn. You should be able to get them in the places you need to, and then there's probably a go turn where most of the Lord of Contagion with a Death Shroud come down and try to nuke something off the board. One big difference here is we've got a big 6-man blob of Death Shroud. So these are all going to be with the Lord of Contagion anyway, so they're all going to get one to go in. And if the opponent has something huge, like say a monolith or a one of the big knights, like an Atropos or whatever it is with the extra bit of wounds, this 6-man should be able to drop with Lord of Contagion, and the weight of dice that you get with lethal and sustained and lance on the charge, you're gonna pick up a big knight with this, probably without any strat support, and then you can use strat support on the other unit to probably get close to, if not doing it as well. You can't do the 3 different strats on 3 different units because we only have the 2 that juice up the attached units. But yeah, this is if they get into it, they're going to do probably half the damage without strat support, and then you'd probably want your crit 5s on your big one, and then your reroll wounds on your small one, and you're going to get pretty close to doing enough. And don't forget, you've still got all your heavy blight launcher drones shooting there. You've got your mephitic blight haulers, which are hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s against the big boys. And yeah, it's just sort of a massive stat check. Can you kill enough of the drones and stay far enough away so that they can't 6-inch deep strike you with all these Death Shroud? And if you can't, you're gonna just die because the damage that these units can output is pretty nuts at the moment. And that is it for the 5 lists that are taking the Champions of Contagion detachment to the WTC. We've got a bit of variety built in there. The backbone obviously being the Death Shroud and the Lord of Contagions and the heavy blight launchers. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which of those lists do best. And there's going to be a huge Death Guard presence, as mentioned before, at the event with the 20 Mortarian Hammers and the 15 Virulent Victoriums. So it'd be interesting to see which of those the bunch does the best, and it probably will define the meta going forward with the Death Guard army. There is a lot of popularity at the moment with a Knight Despoiler, as I mentioned before, popping into the lists, just because getting that -1 to save and the rapid fire battle cannons could do so much damage with that affliction affecting the targets. So yeah, I'm going to be watching closely when it does start happening, and just want to say thank you to everybody for watching this far. I hope you enjoy this sort of wrap up of the detachments and the list run through of the champions. And if you did, please do like and subscribe and leave a comment which you think is going to be the best list and get the most points out there. And yeah, please do check out the rest of the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.